Hi, I'm Emily Page, and you are watching Start to Sold. And today, the title of this video is How a California Attorney Made Wills, Trusts, and Estates Simple and Started a Business That Can't Be Stopped. And I'm excited to be interviewing Christy Aslan, and she is an attorney in California, but also an expert. So if you are in any state, you can actually at least learn key things from her about estates, wills, and trusts, which are not simple sounding. I don't even know if most people know what those things even are, but it has to do with when you pass away, what happens to the things that you own. And it's a very stressful topic. So you always need someone who's helpful to talk to you about it. So thank you, Christy, so much for being here today. Can you tell us about your business?
Hi, Emily. Thank you for having me. I love the title. I love the can't be stopped part of it. It's very, very cute. So my name is Christy Aslan. I'm a Los Angeles-based estate planning attorney and trust and probate administration attorney. So really, I do two things. People come to me when they want to prepare for death and incapacity and protect their assets, their loved ones, their children. And for those folks, I do estate planning. So that means I draft up wills and estates and powers of attorney, all kinds of documents that help to really alleviate the issues that come with death and incapacity. And I also help them with beneficiary designations and trust funding. In addition to that, I also help folks who have had a loved one pass away and are looking to settle an estate or trust.
So everyone who heard that, some people who are attorneys probably feel like, oh, I know what that means. But the average person's like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? And so no one, if you're watching this and you're confused, the good news is you don't actually have to understand it fully, because if you have an expert who does understand it, they can explain it to you slowly in more layman's terms, can help you to even figure out which of those things you need for your own personal life. So it's really important to have an expert that you can quickly call, and that's who Christy is, and that's what we'll get out of this video. We're first going to talk about her business because she has worked with me as a consultant, and I've seen her whole business, every single piece of it, and been blown away by how carefully and thoughtfully she's crafted a business to help people. So we're going to talk about that business and how she just took it. She took it to the moon and is continuing to help people and grow in an outrageous way. So you can learn from her business model. But if you also are at all interested in working on your estate, you will learn that she could be possibly the right person to help you if you're in the state of California. And if you aren't in the state of California, you'll at least learn something. You can go and ask your local, an attorney in your state to be able to help you. Christy might even be able to give you some referrals if you reach out to her. So
all true, yes.
Let's roll right in then. And what I basically want to ask you is, can you explain to us what estate planning is, and when do you know that you need to start looking for an estate planning attorney?
Okay, well, so let me explain by using an example, because sometimes that's a little easier to understand. So I met with clients the other day. They're married couple, 1 or 2 grown children, and they have a home here in California. They have multiple businesses and property all over the country. So if they passed away, and let's say their sons try to come in and administer their estate, handle the debts, handle transfer of title, like getting the people who are supposed to get the assets, getting those assets into their hands, it would be a really big mess. There'd be probate petitions filed all over the country because those assets are in different countries, which means hiring multiple attorneys, actually, in that case, which is just a nightmare. So really what I do is I come in and I talk to them about what their wishes are and then draft up their trust to reflect that. And really it just prevents them from having to go through, their loved ones from having to go through the stress, time, and money of probate petitions.
So for everyone, again, to repeat what you just said, for even this most simplest way, is just, it's writing out a plan in advance for your money. So what happens to your bank account if you passed away? And the problem is, if you have family members and you've got multiple children, or you've had a divorce at any time and different spouses, then people actually start to fight over it. They fight and disagree. And maybe, some people wish they owned the house that they grew up in, and maybe the other child wants to have the art that you owned. And so it can create a lot of emotional conflict for your family, and they should be spending time grieving and remembering and celebrating your life rather than doing the boring and sometimes conflict ridden task of like figuring out what to do with your assets. And so the cool thing is you can plan that in advance. You can write out a plan like, this is my will. I will that this goes to so and so. And the other benefit of this is that you get to plan your taxes, and so make sure that the money doesn't just go into get kind of watered down. You kind of have to plan all this stuff in advance. And so that's the pain point. The pain that we're addressing here, or that Christy can help with, is that passing away and planning for your death with your money and your assets is just, it's emotional and it's complicated. And so you want to do it in advance. So,
and I'll just add too that, like, even if your children are not fighting over those assets, even if everyone's on the same page, if you don't have an estate plan, those children could wind up in court having to fight for the assets, and it costs a lot of money. So for instance, someone who owns property here in Los Angeles, it's very easy for your real property to reach $1 million in value. So I'm going to use that as an example. So if you have a home that's worth $1 million and there is no estate plan and there is no landing place for that asset after you pass away, that means that you can't transfer title, kids aren't going to get the asset until there's a court order. It can take years. We're talking at least 9 months, up to 2 years to get that court order, to get that house sold. And it's very expensive. For $1 million property, you're looking at about $46,000 in attorney's fees. Crazy.
That's literally insane. And there's no need for it, especially because you could pay an attorney in the beginning and think it out carefully and eliminate the need for the loss of time and money and stress.
Right.
So,
and I like to think of it as like, if there's a landing place for your assets to go, things are pretty smooth. It's when there is no landing place that doors just like slam in your face. There's no other way to put it. It just, things don't move unless you have a court order.
Well, a judge doesn't know. You might feel like your family's all on the same page, but the judge doesn't know. And it's their duty to have to make sure that this is all being handled correctly. And that's the problem. If you just write it out, you can eliminate a lot of that.
Yeah. And I recently did a continuing legal education class for other attorneys, and I focused on estate planning for couples who are unmarried. So if you have two people living together as almost like they're husband and husband, or wife and wife, or husband and wife, but they never technically got married, they never registered as domestic partners, it can be really problematic because the law doesn't provide for your unmarried partner, your life partner, to receive anything after you pass away unless you go through an estate plan. And the IRS doesn't even see your unmarried partner as basically the IRS treats unmarried spouses, I'm going to say spouses, as legal strangers. So you really just have to, it's a big deal. So like, not everybody wants to get married, and that's cool. But like, if you take the time to work through an estate plan with an attorney, you can really protect yourself a lot.
Wow, that's it sounds like a headache. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm hoping everyone watching feels very clear on all of that. So my next question would be, how did you decide that this was a problem you wanted to solve and that this would be the right one for you? What inspired you to start this business to address this as a pain point?
Well, I litigated for a really long time, for like 12 years. And I was just ready for a change. And I wanted to work in an area of law wherein I could like really directly help people. And, I kind of think of my sensitivity and empathy as kind of one of my superpowers. And in law, that can be really helpful, but in litigation, it's difficult. So in this way, I get to really work with clients very closely and help them through estate planning, we were just talking about, or someone passes away, getting assets into the right hands. So yeah, I decided to jump ship and started doing estate planning.
So your empathy is what drove you to feel like this would be the right fit for you. And I would agree. I can tell whenever we've talked, you always have empathy. You always care a lot about a person's story and their needs. And that's important in this line of work because it is an emotional thing. You can think about your own passing, or for people on the other side who've had a family member to pass, there's a lot of emotion involved. And we can say that we're rational, money is just rational, but actually our emotions can very much impact what we want to do rationally. So
Yeah.
it's important to have an attorney who is empathetic to your situation to be able to help you think strategically to get the right outcome. So after you decided to launch this business, what was the process you decided to create to help your clients?
Well, I wanted it to be really simple. And really, this is where Emily came in. And I give Emily like rave reviews because she did such a good job of like figuring, you almost did like an audit of where I needed to fix things and like work on customer care, client care, whatever. So we really worked out for my two different practice areas. So we have estate planning, that's people who are looking to prepare for the future. And then we have the other side, which is people going through an estate administration or probate administration. Those are people who've had someone they love pass away. So it's two different processes for two different sets of clients. For my estate planning clients, I'm trying to get to them to the place where they can go, oh, it's done. I can walk away from this and feel like my children and my assets are going to be protected. So I have a 5-step process for that. I really like to meet with my clients. I don't really believe in questionnaires so much. A lot of attorneys rely on questionnaires. They're thick, they're confusing, they use a lot of legal jargon, and I just really want to sit down and talk to people about what they want. So typically I will meet with a client or a couple as a client, and we talk about what their wishes and goals are. And then so it's usually about an hour-long interview. I listen to everything they have to say. I draft up the documents, I send them back, and we meet again for a second interview to go over everything together. I answer all their questions, they make changes if they want to, and then I get them either the documents back to my clients for review again, or we set up what I call signing day. Like I'm never going to be like in the NBA, but or like I'm never going to be part of the college draft, but it's really cool to watch that process. And so I decided I wanted to have my own signing day. So they come in for signing day, everything gets signed and executed. I get the documents back. Now we're on step 4. I process everything. And then I send them their originals back. I send them copies via PDF, and then we're at step 5 and they're done. And then I'm available for phone calls afterwards if they have questions, if they've had more complicated like businesses. I still need to keep working on their file. So there might be a 5th meeting as well. So that's how my estate planning clients work. My probate trust administration clients, again, that's someone coming to me. My wife passed away, my mom passed away, my dad passed away, whatever. They're coming to me and we're talking about what their steps are, because let's be honest, when someone passes away, you're grief stricken, and how would you even know where to start unless you had someone guiding you through it? So I have a 6-step process, and I have to review my notes for this because it's a little more involved. So the first one is we investigate. I always have my clients kind of like, if they can, access their deceased loved one's laptop to look out for any bank accounts that exist out there. Because, maybe it's your parents that passed away. And I don't know. I do know what my parents' bank accounts are because I've written their estate plan. But aside from that, I wouldn't have any idea really like what they owned or where it was. So investigating kind of what assets are out there. If there's a trust lying around somewhere that has been gathering dust for 25 years, let's find that. Watching mail to see what's coming in, just keeping an eye out for like gathering everything. The second one is if there is a trust, we establish the trust as its own little entity. by getting its own EIN or employer identification number. When a trust, after someone passes away, it probably has become irrevocable, which means it's its own little entity, its own little business. So it gets its own little EIN. And if there is no trust, we might have to file a probate petition or some other motion. And then we gather all of the assets together. We transfer the assets to the trustee, and the trustee then takes over control over those assets. And then he or she has the obligation of distributing those assets. But first, you have to pay the debts, pay taxes, file taxes. Then at the very, very end, you make distributions to heirs and beneficiaries.
So for anyone who's not like up to speed on these things, they may not fully understand every word that you said. But the point that everyone needs to take away is that she has a plan. And your plan, and you know what, the cool thing is that Christy can actually explain to you. You don't have to know all of the plans or have the steps memorized, but at the time when you need step one, Christy will explain what step one is, and we'll simplify it for you. You don't have to learn the rest of the steps until you get there. And so
right.
The cool thing is that it's helpful to have someone who actually knows the timeline and can advise you on what needs to be done, so that you're not just, when you hire an attorney, you don't even sometimes know what you're hiring them for. You just know you need this outcome. And so it's helpful to be like, what am I paying for? What's the process? What am I getting out of this experience? How will you help make my life easier? And Christy is actually wrote this plan so that people don't have to worry, like getting a GPS. When I go someplace, I literally don't even know how. I'm very directionally challenged, but as long as I have my GPS and it shows me that it has steps, I know I'm going to get there. I can start my GPS and I can start driving and not really understand where I'm going, just because I just have to take one step at a time. And Christy is sort of like your legal GPS.
I love that.
She's so much cuter than a GPS. But yeah, much more friendly even.
I suppose the end game for my trust and estate administration clients is getting everything finalized. So like finishing the probate case or finalizing and settling the trust and walking away. That's what my goal is. Right.
Well, I think that you're clear on the outcome at the very beginning. And that's the reason why I think your process is very special for that reason, because you can trust that you know where you're going from the very beginning. That's your objective as a business owner. It's also, I believe, why you've been so stellar at getting clients and people have just trust you so much, why you've grown so tremendously since you picked this direction, is because you're just really clear. And it's not confusing when someone is interviewing different attorneys. They know exactly what they're getting when they're working with you. And I guess it kind of leads into my next question, which is, how do you feel that you're different than other practices? Why did you create this process? How does that make you a different experience? How do you provide a different experience than other law firms? Because some people haven't even hired an attorney before, so they don't even know how your process might be different than, let's just say worst case scenario, or maybe not even the worst case scenario, the average attorney that you work with. Like, what is it that's standing out or they're getting differently when they're working with you that might be valuable to them?
So I've worked for multiple firms over my career. I was licensed in 2008. And I think what I can say pretty clearly is that I'm very focused on the client experience and understanding what is going on every step of the way. I consider my clients to be kind of like partners. Like I want them to know what's going on the whole time. And litigation, which is what my background is also very complicated. And I had so many clients being like, what is happening? And I started developing resources for them to reference so they wouldn't be quite so confused. And I do the same thing with my estate planning, trust, and estate administration clients. I try to explain what's going on every step of the way. And like I was saying before, I think I bring a lot of empathy to the table. And I try to explain things as simply as I can. It's really difficult. It is sometimes like translating from a different language, but I really want my clients to understand what's going on. So
That's it. I think that's helpful to hear because I think sometimes you've heard all of the attorney jokes, but the people who aren't attorneys are a little intimidated by attorneys because they have a lot of knowledge about the legal world, and the lack of our knowledge, those of us who aren't attorneys, makes it intimidating, or it makes it you feel sort of uncomfortable, you feel a little exposed because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going through this process, I don't even know what to ask for. And I think that the value of being able to have someone explain it to you and talk to you is just, it's helpful because you can feel better about the process, that you understand where you're going and what's happening and why.
right.
That's valuable.
And that's part of the reason with my estate planning clients, I've developed like a flat rate pricing. So there are no surprises. It's kind of like when you go to the mechanic, your car's making a weird noise. Like, it's the worst to go to the mechanic and have them take a look at it because you like don't know what to expect. It can be kind of intimidating to work with an attorney. I think we're known for being incredibly pricey and pop culture would say we're all very greedy. It's really the reality. But so I think clients come to a first meeting with a lot of fear about and confusion maybe, or unclarity about what's going on and what to expect. So for my estate planning clients, I developed a flat rate pricing structure, which just lets them kind of relax a bit through the process because I know there's not going to be any surprises at the end. And I like to say that, when you have a car breakdown and you're like, oh no, what is this going to cost me? And you bring it into the mechanic doesn't know either. He's going to have to look into it. And then you sit there waiting and sweating, right? I like to avoid that problem because I like to be able to just tell people from the get-go, your estate plan for these assets is going to cost X. Makes it much easier for them.
Yeah, I know I personally appreciate that. And I've seen, as a consultant, for example, I put pricing out on a website, and I've been told so many times, don't do that because you can sometimes even charge more to a person if you don't tell them up front. You can give them different pricing based on whether you think they're willing to invest more or not. And I hate that. I would rather, one of the reasons why I've hesitated to reach out to some people is because I don't know if they're in my price range, and I don't want to get too far emotionally along the process. Yeah. I want to know what I'm getting myself into, and I want to know that they have a plan, so that there's boundaries on what we're doing together. And I think I personally appreciate that transparency from anyone I work with, and that's why I want to have a business like that. And I love that you have a unique approach. Others would do a billable hour, and they can give you an estimate, but you really don't know what you're getting. So I like that you made that choice for your business.
Yeah, I do too. Clients really appreciate it.
Well, so I'd be curious to hear, for anyone who owns a business or for anybody who is seeing that you have a very simple process, what I'd like to know is what was the most important steps that you took to get to this point where you have a synthesized business that's so clear and so effective at helping people to want to sign up to work with you and get the results that they want? What process did you go through?
For sure, hiring Emily was very beneficial for me. Very beneficial. Like we were talking about a second ago, you sort of went through my processes and you were like, okay, let's make this easier for people to understand, which I really, really appreciate, because I feel like sometimes when I talk about my businesses or my law practice with people, they nod their heads, but maybe they don't know what I'm talking about. Like, you tell me you don't know what I'm talking about, and then it forces me to translate even better. And just really just trying to make things as simple and straightforward as I possibly can for my clients.
Well, I think that what anyone watching, what's helpful is that it's an iterative process to know you are an expert and a black belt, and you have all this industry expertise and knowledge. And it's so funny. It's difficult to explain. When we spend so many years becoming experts in what we're doing, we learn all the industry lingo. And then when it comes to explaining to a person supposed to be our client, there's a bridge. There has to be a bridge in how we translate it. me, if I'm hiring an attorney to do my estate planning, I need it to be as simple as possible, because I don't want the not my lack of understanding to be the reason why I can't get the outcome. And so I feel like your empathy and the strategy that you took to be able to break it down into chunks, that it's step by step and simple. I personally think that increases your ability to close, the right client, because a client can understand, oh, is this a good fit for me or not? And what's the process to get onboarded? And so it removes friction. And so the benefit for the person on the receiving side is that they can really quickly evaluate whether or not you're the right fit for them, which is wonderful, right? And that improves their experience and a chance of hiring the right person for them. And it also reduces friction in you being able to close. So it's not like, if I don't know whether or not a person's going to be the right fit for me, it takes me a long time to make a decision. But the more clear you are about the deliverables that you're offering, the more I can quickly evaluate, hey, is this right for me? And then sign up. And so that's the cool outcome that I feel like you've witnessed over the past few years. The more you've clarified your process, it just has helped to increase sales of the right customer. And that's a benefit to both the customer and to yourself. Do you agree?
I do agree. Next steps is part of my vocabulary like you would not believe. Like, I think every single email I do with my clients, there is a little thing at the bottom that says next steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2. And it's just like, they don't have to think that hard. It's right there at the bottom of an email. And they just always feel confident that they know that I at least know where we're going, even if they don't.
That is a very powerful feeling on something so emotional as you're figuring out your estate. So I love hearing those things, Christy. And so for anybody who's watching, I hope you guys took inspiration from Christy. You're welcome to connect to her on LinkedIn or on Instagram, just to become her friend and to continue to watch her business grow. If anyone though watching is interested in actually hiring her to be potentially their attorney to either help them write their estate, or once the estate, if someone else that they know and love has an estate, have it executed, they can reach out to Christy. So Christy, could you explain how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. Like Emily was just saying, I'm on LinkedIn. My website is lawyercma.com, and you can email me at cma@lawyercma. Stands for Christy Marie Asselin. CA had been taken because that's like California, so I had my little middle initial. So CMA@lawyercma. You can follow me on Instagram at Estate Plan with Christy as well.
And she has live webinars that are interesting, like the one she just mentioned, which was so interesting. I never thought about it. If you have, a life partner that you aren't planning to get married, you got to think about your estate. So she's got really cool webinars. So you can even go to her website and sign up to be able to be a part of her newsletter to get notified when new webinars are available, in case you're not completely ready yet, but you're on the fence about it sometime in the future.
Yep.
So thank you to everyone who's been watching. If you guys have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments for me or for Christy, and we will pass them on to her and she can reply. And also please like this video if you learned anything. We appreciate your support. And please connect to Christy on LinkedIn or Instagram or on our website. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope you guys have a great day going from start to sold.